Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, the Catch Cup has finally left and Open Grade League is back at long last. And I was able to start off the Open Grade League right, putting together a fun team and immediately going on a 10-0 win streak with the team. Now bear in mind, this is not a team that I personally recommend for climbing. It was a team that I just put together for fun and ended up having very positive results with. Now the team is HISUIAN Electrode on the lead, with Lickitung and Giratina Origin in the back. So it's a team that's a bit weak to ice, but I found that the debuff and dip strategy was very successful with HISUIAN Electrode, and its typing is very good at core breaking a lot of teams. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches, and we pick up a pretty nice lead HISUIAN Electrode versus Whiscash. Whiscash is going to overfarm quite a bit. I can tank a Mud Bomb, so I'm going to let it go. They go for the Resistance Scald, fishing for a debuff. They save switch into Sableye, and I'm just going to fire off the Wild Charge and then look to send in Lickitung. They end up committing the shield, and that's amazing for me, as I can send in the Lickitung, and I don't have to shield a thing here. Sableye can fire off charge attack after charge attack. My Lickitung is not even an amazing rank, but it's still going to be able to withstand the onslaught of damage from the Sableye. Power Whip will connect, and now I can just commit to the farm down. I should leave pretty close to a Power Whip, so the opponent is not going to be able to send in the Whiscash. And typically, if someone's running Whiscash, they're always going to be running Skarmory. So they're going to have to send in the Skarmory, and if it is Skarmory, which it is, they're about to get swept by HISUIAN Electrode. Body Slam will connect, aggressive pivot back into the Electrode, Steel Wings doing absolutely nothing, and I make it to the back-to-back Wild Charges. Wild Charge is going to be shielded by the Skarmory. They try for a catch onto the Whiscash, but I wait, I watch for it, and now it's just all over for the opponent. There's nothing they can do. HISUIAN Electrode overfarming, firing off the Energy Ball. The game stutters, I only get a great, but it does not matter. Get that Whiscash off my screen. Back in comes the Skarmory. Good night, Skarmory. HISUIAN Electrode 1v2s and takes the win. Bit of a tricky lead in the next match, HISUIAN Electrode versus Bastiodon. This team is ABA weak to Bastiodon, as both the Electrode and the Lickitung do have losing matchups. I'm going to throw the Wild Charge, throw one Thunder Shock, and then throw a second one, and then look to switch into the Lickitung, but my opponent ends up throwing their charge attack on alignment, giving me a free Thunder Shock, which is quite nice. I'm going to now fire off another Wild Charge, and then, whether they shield or not, look to switch. They protect the Bastiodon, I send in the Lickitung. This is way more manageable of a health range for the Lickitung to deal with. They end up switching out, saving the Bastiodon, and in comes Annihilate. At this point, I know the team. They're just running a pretty standard Grass Hole team with Bastiodon, Annihilate as the save switch, and a Victory Bell in the back. So the good news for me is that I should have a very clear path to victory with the Giratina Origin. My opponent, instead of throwing for the Night Slash, they try for a farm down. They're forced to give up a shield, but they are going to be able to get the shield back on whatever I send in here. I want energy on the Giratina because that's what I'm going to need to sweep this endgame, so I'll send in the Giratina and shield once. The Bastiodon is already at about half HP, which means that a Shadow Ball and farm down is a very real possibility. They have to send in the Bastiodon, because if it is the team that I'm thinking, they absolutely cannot send in the Victory Bell. I'm going to fire off this Shadow Ball will connect, Bastiodon makes the Stone Edge, but this is very okay. I can just fully commit to a farm down with the Giratina. I'm in no danger of them making another move. At the last second, they switch out into the Victory Bell, and it's all over. Shadow Ball picks up the one-hit KO. In comes the Bastiodon. I send in the Electrode to get the Thunder Shock down, and we take the win. We've got a battle of electric types in the next match, HISUIAN Electrode versus Magnezone. My goal here is to throw after 10 Thunder Shocks. It'll be charge attack priority to them making it to a Wild Charge plus a Mirror Shot, which is the most logical time for them to throw. I'm hoping they Wild Charge, but they do not. I was hoping to catch them with -2 defense and force them to shield the Wild Charge, but they don't have to shield. I'm just going to save the energy, send in Lickitung. Opponent builds up to back-to-back Wild Charges, but in doing so, they let me CMP tie them with the Body Slam. So they have a second Wild Charge, but they don't get to use it unless they shield up this Body Slam, and they do. With this team, the goal is I'm basically never going to be shielding the Lickitung. Lickitung is just here to be a neutral damage sponge and a safe switch. And now I can just go for energy on HISUIAN Electrode. I already have a Wild Charge banked, and now I have 8 Thunder Shocks of energy, which even if they send in something that resists my moveset, I'm still going to be able to output some nice damage. They send in Gligar, I fire off the Energy Ball, that does substantial damage. In comes the Giratina. In the back, oh no, they have Skeledirge, and it's all over for my opponent. Firing off the Shadow Ball will be shielded, but whether they shielded that move or not, this game's already done for. They can fire out the Disarming Voice, but they're still going to be one off of their next Disarming Voice, so I can throw 2 Shadow Claws safely, go for the Ominous Wind, because at this point the Shadow Claws have done enough where this will very comfortably KO. Ominous Wind picks up the KO, and there's just no ability for Gligar to get enough energy to win this game, as they need 3 charge attacks to win the game, and I can just make the Shadow Ball on Giratina, Shadow Ball picks up the KO, and we take the win. We've got a surprising Mudboy on the lead in the next match, HISUIAN Electrode versus Shadow Swampert. They save switch into Shadow Tentacruel, and if it's a Mudboy and a Tentacruel, I'm always expecting Skarmory in the back. So they're probably just going to be triple weak to the HISUIAN Electrode. I'm able to grab a shield with the Wild Charge, send in the Giratina. I think they're just short of a Blizzard, so I let it go. It's a resisted Sludge Wave, but that did not look resisted, my goodness. I'm going to overfarm properly, so whatever they send in here, whether it's the Skarmory or the Shadow Swampert, is going to have to take massive damage or give up the final shield from the Shadow Ball. So I should be in an incredibly good position. But the opponent does not have a Skarmory. It's a flyer, but it's a Mandibuzz. Mandibuzz, a complete wall to energy. The Shadow Ball, not going to do a whole lot. I can't save myself by switching into the Lickitung, so unfortunately Giratina gets farmed down. But I should still have a very clear path to victory. I just send in the Lickitung to force them to throw energy, and if there's ever a point where they are dry on energy, like right here, they don't overfarm, and that allows me to switch instantly into the Electrode. And now, my opponent is on the back foot here. They can fire off Aerial Aces, but health on this Pokemon is priority. So even though I know it's the Aerial Ace, I'm still going to be committing the shield, looking to overfarm quite substantially, and then firing off the Wild Charge. Wild Charge is going to be able to pick up the knockout. In comes the Swampert. And I'm not far off of making it to a Power Whip with the Lickitung, so I just have a guaranteed path to victory of just going double Wild Charge. If they end up shielding, I can make it to an Energy Ball. If they no shield, then, I can grab the shield with the Wild Charge and then just Body Slam them on the Lickitung. So, HISUIAN Electrode's typing makes it an incredibly good core breaker. Its moveset is very awkward though. Energy Ball being more expensive than Wild Charge is really not ideal, but it's a Pokemon that I really like for its typing into the current meta, but it's very difficult to use. It would really benefit from, in a future move update, getting a cheaper grass move. That would be incredible. What do you know? Another match, another Bastiodon. Okay, well, we were able to beat the Toxic team last time. This trainer appears to have a way worse Bastiodon than the other trainer, as those Wild Charges did so much damage. They send in the Victory Bell to the Lickitung save switch, and this is incredible for me. Lickitung pretty much dominates this matchup in my experience, even if they have Magical Leaf, which they do, and since they didn't switch right away, I am actually barely able to outpace and make it to the Body Slam before they make it to their next Leaf Blade. They're going to commit the shield. They're actually going to go for a full farm down, but that's very okay by me, because I fully wall their moveset with Giratina. So I can just send in the Giratina, no shield whatever they throw, they go for an Acid Spray, and this is a bit uncomfortable, as I am debuffed, so I'm going to be forced to shield a resisted move just to preserve some HP. I'm looking to switch, but they have a Tropius in the back, and the Tropius is on Air Slash. So it's not on Razor Leaf. Air Slash is going to hit both my Pokemon for neutral. I'm just going to send in the Electrode. This can only be a Leaf Blade. It cannot be the Aerial Ace, so I'm just going to let it through. They send in the Bastiodon. Bastiodon forced to fire off energy, or I could just Wild Charge and KO. And now I just have a clear path to victory with the Giratina. Giratina absolutely loves farming down Bastiodons. I'm going to commit the shield as they do make it to the Stone Edge, but the Tropius is completely dry on energy. So when they send back in the Tropius, I can throw one and the Shadow Ball to throw in good timing. Shadow Ball is going to pick up the KO, and these Basti grass teams are having a very bad day against this team. Decent lead in the next match, HISUIAN Electrode versus Cresselia. I'm just going to wait for them to throw their energy and then Wild Charge and dip, but they never throw their energy. They tried for a catch onto Goodra. I send in Lickitung. Lickitung does very fine into Goodra because it doesn't appear that my opponent is running the attack weight Goodra to try and get a Dragon Breath breakpoint. So I should have a pretty good matchup here, but that beginning of the game did not go the way that I was hoping it would. Ideally in that matchup, I would definitely prefer to have them throw their energy, me Wild Charge and dip so I get damage on the Cresselia, and I don't have to deal with a tremendous amount of energy on that Cresselia later in the game. I will fire off the Body Slam. Opponent ends up shielding. They're forced to throw because I could make a Body Slam, and that's very okay by me. I'm just going to let this through, farm down with the Giratina, and I know that I have 100 energy on the Electrode. I'm expecting them to send in the Cresselia and just start going for Moonblast, but they don't! They have Lantern in the back, and we're triple strong against Lantern. Lantern has nowhere to go, Energy Ball connects, in comes Cresselia. I'm not debuffed yet, so I know I can tank this. It's the Future Sight, that does massive damage. I'm going to overfarm. even with debuffing my defense by 2 stages here, I should be able to make another wild charge. I make the wild charge, I get to another one, the game lags, and even though I clicked on it, I just don't get my move. I've never seen that before, but the game state was extremely rough again today. Niantic, please optimize this game for Android phones. It worked well before, and now, since the Biomes update, it has been very rough. The good news is we don't need that move to win that game, but my goodness, this has been a very frustrating experience. They're going to be firing off a move with the Lantern. It's only going to be the Surf. Surf, not going to be a problem. I can just double up on Ominous Winds. And even though we lost an entire wild charge because the game was bad, we're still going to be able to take the win because the Lantern was triple hard countered. It had nowhere it could go. I fire off the Ominous Wind. Ominous Wind knocks out the Cresselia. And despite things being a little rough in the beginning of the match, we're still able to take the win. Great lead, HISUIAN Electrode versus Empoleon. Opponent save switches into a Dugong, and this is a crazy team from the opponent. If they see a Lantern lead, a HISUIAN Electrode lead in my case, or an Annihilate lead, they just instantly lose because they're running 2 Pokemon, one in the lead, one in the back, that have identical weaknesses. So in my view, not an amazing choice when it comes to team building here. I'm able to grab a shield with the HISUIAN Electrode, send in the Lickitung, and I really don't care if my opponent is able to win Switch or not. They have to have something that can beat Annihilate in the back. It could definitely be a Flyer, or it could be their own Annihilate. Either way, I should be in a pretty nice spot. The things that this team does struggle against is if you see a Wigglytuff, you're going to have a pretty terrible day because the backline is very weak to it. Guzzlord would also be awful, and Vigoroth would be pretty terrible as well. Here I'm going to aggressively switch into the Electrode and snipe with Thunder Shocks, and it's Annihilate in the back. I get the double up, I lose charge attack priority, but I'm more than happy to shield because I get to guarantee land a wild charge. There's no way they're going to switch and catch this onto Empoleon and just get one shot. So they're forced to stay in here with the Annihilate, but that's still going to do a ton of damage to the Annihilate. The Wild Charge lands, Annihilate now deep into the red. Annihilate not going to be able to make a Shadow Ball versus the Giratina. I'm going to wait because I would love to get a catch onto the Lickitung, and I click over there to try for the catch, but as we see, the switch clock was like a half second from being up, so no catch. I mean, we don't need the catch to win, but getting the catch would have made this endgame a little bit cleaner because they're the non-Shadow Empoleon, which means they can survive the Shadow Ball, and the Steel Wings do add up, but luckily enough, Giratina is able to hang on, get the Shadow Claw down, and take the win. We see a familiar lead in the next match, HISUIAN Electrode versus Cresselia. I'm just going to farm up, wait for them to throw, and then I can fire off some energy. Opponent save switches into a Guzzlord, and this is so bad. Save switching a Guzzlord is wild considering that it has a double weakness to Fairy. If the opponent has a Fairy type in the back, you just lose the game on the spot. But against my team, Guzzlord is super strong. But the good news for me is that 2 Wild Charges landing nearly KOs it. The resisted damage is crazy. They throw a move. I'm now 2 licks away from a Body Slam, so I can just knock out the Guzzlord. And getting rid of the Guzzlord is incredibly good for me. They did store a bunch of energy on the Cresselia. They're going to send back in the Cresselia. I can survive any one move here, but not super well. Future Sight is going to connect. And Lickitung is something that I actually do after I do some trades next season. I will be able to have enough XLs to build a new Lickitung. So I'm hoping to be able to find a very high rank spread that I can then build. I'm going to send in the Giratina. Giratina, I know they're running Future Sight, so they should be on Future Sight Grass Knot. And that's not going to be an issue for me. But the issue is now they're going to be able to just fire off a Grass Knot. But as long as they're on a 6th cycle, I just get this farm down, and getting the farm down puts me in a really good spot. But I'm not super familiar with the Cresselia counts after you've thrown a bunch of moves. They actually get the Grass Knot, and that's really bad. And unfortunately, this is just going to be a loss for me here because I misplayed it. But look at this. Giratina said, a loss? I do not think so. Giratina gets the Ominous Wind boost. About to put the team on his back. I don't get the catch. The opponent has to try and double up to win the game. And in doing so, I get the Wild Charge. So with every win streak, there's going to be a little bit of luck. And there was my luck right there. The boost at the perfect time to save me. Now, every good win streak must come to an end, so we'll take a look at this win streak ending. Amazing lead, HISUIAN Electrode into Skarmory, but they save switch Vigoroth, and this team is so insanely weak to Vigoroth. I'm forced to send in Lickitung because I can't send in Giratina because Giratina has no way to damage it. I try and throw one lick in the move. Unfortunately, the game ends up stuttering, but it stutters into a charge attack priority tie, so it's not the worst thing in the world, which is nice. Body Slam is going to be able to connect. It looks like I should be able to make another Body Slam. Nope, I don't get it. And this is looking absolutely terrible. They have so much energy on this Vigoroth. I'm in a ton of trouble. Typically, Vigoroth is used way more commonly on the lead at the moment because if you save switch Vigoroth and you're met with an Annihilate, you just lose the game. There's not really a way that you can fight back from that. I'm going to bank energy on the Giratina, but I am coping at this point. There is not a realistic way that I can win this game. I know there's a Skarmory, but I still haven't even seen their third. This is their save switch, and it's gotten basically to 1v3 my entire team. They're finally going to let him move through, saving a shield, and they're going to send in the Skarmory. I'm looking to farm up a ton of energy with the Electrode. I make the double Wild Charge right before they're able to make it to a move. Wild Charge is going to be shielded. I get Wild Charge number 2, and I've done enough Thunder Shocks that this will be enough to KO. What do they have in the back? It's a Whiscash. This might actually be doable. I just have to survive the Mud Shots. Shadow Ball connects, but it's the Shadow Whiscash. The Mud Shots are just enough to KO. So despite the fact that a Vigoroth nearly 1v3'd us, we almost pull off a win in the end game, but unfortunately, we fall just short. All in all, even despite the win streak, this is still not a team that I would personally recommend others trying if they're looking to gain elo, just due to the fact that it's a team that does have many flaws. As we saw there, one Vigoroth and the team basically fell apart. I was able to fight back and nearly pull off the win, but Vigoroth, extremely tough. Guzzlord, I got very lucky in the one game that I saw Guzzlord where they basically just didn't shield it at all, and something like a Wigglytuff would be extremely difficult to deal with as well. So overall, definitely more of a team for fun than for climbing. I did really want to highlight HISUIAN Electrode and how strong its typing is into the current meta. The moveset definitely is a bit of a letdown with Energy Ball being so expensive, but in a future move update, if this thing got a cheaper grass move, I think it could actually move to be a pretty solid meta contender, just due to the fact that that grass electric coverage is insanely good into most top meta things that we're seeing at the moment. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support guys provide is sincerely appreciated. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.